thing with Jan is he's changed his tune because he actually, pre-tournament, had Germany going out in the groups, and now you've got them beating England, Jan. Tell me how this has happened.
First of all, Kay, I said they will probably go out. I'm a politician, so I have to get that right. No, but they were close. I mean, my tip to go out wasn't that bad, was it, when you saw them against Hungary? And I think that the funny thing going into the game at Wembley now is that the biggest fear the Germans have now is Jadon Sancho, and Gareth Southgate doesn't know who Jadon Sancho is, which is a bit interesting going into that Wembley game. And secondly, Archie made some good points of which team will turn up. It's also interesting which kind of system Joachim Löw will use. There's a lot of discussion in and around German football at the moment when they play with a back three, which turns into a back five. Kimmich gets lost in that system. So you just feel that if Germany will use Kimmich and Goretzka in the middle of the park, it's going to be hard for England. Having said that, I mean, that defense of Germany, I mean, I can never trust them. It's very, very hard on them. And I think it's down to Gareth Southgate how much he dares going into this game, because the German team are vulnerable, and Craig Burley is right when he says that they have the experience. Having said that, there's some games, I think since Russia, we've seen one good football game of this German team, and that's what was against Portugal. So this is a major chance for Gareth Southgate to knock them out.
There's no, now, if anyone thinks there's any rhyme or reason in this programme about selecting picks, you only have to watch yesterday's show, where I switched it on and Frank Leboeuf, who had, along with me, had pre-tournament when we were asked about who our flops would be in the tournament, we both selected England, and Frank had them gone to the final yesterday on the show. So, I mean, unless Frank's got a sudden loss of memory, he had England as flops. And he's not here to defend himself, but we don't care about that, Nedum. We'll soldier on anyway. Maybe he'll say, Frank will say, when he comes out, because he's coming over to the States, he's been telling us about it for weeks, he'll say, but they're on the easy side of the bracket now. But they still have to get past the Germans. But Frank had them as the flops 2 weeks ago, and now he's got them in the final.
Well, we'll get to two of the team who actually are going for England. But first, just because Jan did mention Sancho.
Oh, Jan mentions Sancho every show he's on.
Right. I would like to know from Archie if the Germans are mentioning Sancho not featuring for England and what they think of it.
Mentioning, it's a daily process. They can't get their heads around why he's not played yet. They think that Gareth Southgate has a screw loose. And to be fair, I think that if you're playing against a deep-lying defence, Jadon Sancho is your number one man. If you're playing against a team where you're lofting the ball over the top, I think that somebody like Raheem Sterling is more suitable to that, because Jadon Sancho likes to dribble past players. I remember seeing him go through one-on-one away at RB Leipzig once, and he had Dayot Upamecano racing behind him. And instead, he waited for Upamecano to catch him up because he didn't back himself in that one-on-one sprint duel. So I think he's a weapon that England have to use more. Let's see how many more chances they will get to do that. I am going for some calculated pessimism with my pick, shall we say, because I just can't back England as much as my heart would like to. I can't back England in a game like this.
But yet we have two in the studio here who are backing England. Shaka, you're one of them.
He almost played for England. You know that, Nedum?
Yeah. Were you not born in England?
I was, yes.
Yeah, he was hedging his bets.
I'm not sure how we got here, but the reason I pick England over Germany, and it is close. I felt it was close. Changed my mind a couple of times. I just think that on what we've seen in the group stages, neither of these teams are great. Whereas I think we've seen the best of Germany against Portugal. I think England can only get better. That being said, England, as they're set up, I don't think like to be favourites. They want teams to come at them. That's when they're at their best. That's when they can use the pace that they have. And I think what you saw from Germany against Portugal is they have to play on the front foot. You have to get Gosens and Kimmich forward. And that allows a lot of space for England to exploit. That allows England to be at their best, or certainly better than what we saw in the group stage. So for that reason, I'm leaning England right now.
As are you, Nedum.
I am just Just because, firstly, it's at Wembley. I think that matters to England. I think overall, for as much as they've not played lights out, incredible football, they're a tough team to beat. And that is something which I think is quite significant. And then the other side of it, when I look at the German side, they are very, very good, but they're a bit vulnerable at the back. I think when they go front foot, they do tend to overcommit. And as for England, given how conservative they are as a team overall, I think, as Shaka says, I think that kind of suits them. And I think they have people in the team who can maybe hit them on the break. And when you do have some players who can get into the open field and try and take it to Germany, I think that's going to be a big deal. I'd say I wouldn't expect England to keep 60% possession or anything like that. But they don't concede a lot of goals. But this is the first time, I think, in a tournament where a team's going to be putting them on the back foot. And I think Southgate and the players might be more comfortable with that.
I would be concerned with this German back three against pace. Because I think with Harry Kane floating around as he does, and he hasn't had a great tournament thus far, and service hasn't been brilliant, but when he floats around and maybe tries to drag Hummels or whoever it is out of position, then you've got Sterling and Saka or Sancho or whoever it is. You've got them making those little out-to-end runs in between the three centre. I mean, Scotland played three centre halves in my time a lot, but it was a very compact three centre halves because the centre halves basically didn't want to get caught out in the wider positions. Now you see a lot of the teams. The wider centre halves will play a little wider, and the wing backs will push on. That's the kind of nature of the game these days, and that can leave centre halves exposed to pace, and particularly ones that are not quick. And certainly Rudiger's quite quick. Ginter's not bad, but Hummels is not, and that could be a key area. So I think it was Archie or Jan touched on it earlier. Will Joachim Löw change the shape at this point? Is he worried about being exposed as a back line to England's pace? And they have got pacey players from sort of midfield to front, and that's going to be a big issue, I think, for Germany, depending on who England select. Look, we can talk about Sancho all we want, and I agree, but what Gareth Southgate will say, well, look, we can discuss players that are not playing, but we have had success to this point. The criticism will come if he leaves one or two out and they lose to Germany. They'll say you're way too conservative. But at the moment, it's hard to criticise results. You can talk about performances, but results for England have been good enough thus far.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.